US House has passed a $1.9 trillion stimulus package, paving the way for President Biden to sign off on the bill. The relief package includes $1,400 payments for middle and lower income households. It cements one of the largest injections of federal aid since the Great Depression. The President is expected to sign the bill on Saturday.
We, of course, are moving full speed ahead on the implementation of the bill because we know the American people need help and need it as soon as possible.
For more, joining us live is Gordon Flake, the CEO of the Perth USAsia Centre. Gordon, good to see you. Do we mark this down as one of Joe Biden's first major political wins? It's one of the largest economic rescue packages in US history.
It is. $1.9 trillion is enormous. To put that in context, the entire Australian gross domestic product is about $1.3, $1.4 trillion. And so a massive package, the third tranche of direct funding, and perhaps most importantly, something that appears to be at this point deeply popular. Current opinion polls show public approval of the relief bill about 75%. And in a deeply divided polity in the United States, it's difficult to get one half of the country to agree with the other half that the sky is blue. So this is quite remarkable at this point in the process.
And on another matter, Joe Biden signed an executive order this week aiming to make it easier for Americans to vote. It does come, doesn't it, as Republicans in some states have sought to impose more voting restrictions after the experience of last year's election. It's really a foreign debate for us here in Australia, isn't it, Gordon, where voting is compulsory, but how do you expect it'll all play out in America?
Not only is voting compulsory, but we've got a national electoral commission here that kind of ensures that the processes are fair and actually easy for Australians to participate in. I just yesterday, because I'll be out of town this weekend, filled out my first ever, ballot for the Australian, election, our local WA state election here, and I found it remarkably easy compared to what I did in the United States just last autumn. So it's quite remarkable that the U.S. is having this fundamental contest over voting rights still today in 2021. And this really is the contest for the next 2 to 4 years. One party, the Republican Party, is convinced that they need to focus on election integrity, which is code for trying to make it more difficult to vote. On the other side, you've got the Democratic Party. Every Congress, the first bill they put up is House Resolution 1, which is a whole raft of measures that try to make it easier for people to vote. And right now, that contest is very live. The president can do a few things through the executive order, like you mentioned, but the real battle is taking place on the state level, as state after state, having seen the results in 2020, are looking to make it more difficult for voters to come out in 2022, the next midterm elections.
You mentioned the WA state election. There will be a distraction for Scott Morrison. It's one he might need on Saturday with things not looking good for the Liberals in WA. He's going to be doing the Quad talks, as they're known. They're getting underway on the weekend. Joe Biden, Scott Morrison, they're hooking up for this video call with leaders from Japan and India. Considering that grouping, the assumption is that China will be pretty high on the agenda. Scott Morrison saying, it's not all about China.
No, look, in the public discourse, it's common to view the Quad as an anti-China alliance. But people need to remember the Quad was first set up back in 2006 after the Boxing Day tsunami. And there's been actually even prior to that, 2004 in its first iterations. So there's been a lot of ongoing discussion. It's largely been at the working level, occasionally at the ministers level. This will be the first, leader-level meeting of Japan, Australia, India, and the United States. And interestingly enough, they have indicated that their first focus is going to be on vaccine production, with some early indications of a plan to make sure that these 4 countries work together to produce vaccines, and then to make sure that any excess is going into our neighborhood, into Southeast Asia. All things that are really good for Australia, and which aren't specifically about combating or containing China in any way, shape, or form.
Gordon Flake, appreciate your analysis as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.